ding the chime?
No, don't ding it.
You can do it from, Annabelle likes to ding. Go ahead, ding the chime. She learned how to do it. One more time.
Really loud. Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Asheville. My name is Laurel Jernigan, and together with my daughter Annabelle, we are going to be your worship associates today, together with Reverend Claudia. We are glad you're here, congregant or visitor.
Whoever you are, wherever you come from, whomever you love, wherever you are on your journey, however you identify, you are welcome in our faith community. If you are visiting here in the sanctuary, welcome. If you are visiting online, we invite you to introduce yourself and tell us from where you are watching. We're glad you are here.
We're grateful for the presence of our guest musicians today, Womansong, and yes, and Soul Matters UU Writers Group members Kelly Riedesel and Christine Van Wanlin, who will be sharing original poems, and to our tech staff, Jess Fox and Stephen Carter. We're also welcoming our new communication and tech specialist, Simon Jacobs. Welcome, Simon. Now let us prepare for worship with today's centering music.
Sit down.
For me and you, and I think to myself.
As we light our chalice today, we have words from the Reverend Maureen Killeran. In these hard times, let us look first to the response of love. In the midst of challenge, may our chalice flame bear witness to the inherent worth and dignity of every human being. In the midst of uncertainty, may our chalice be a beacon of encouragement, that our values may guide our choices. Let us look first at the response of love.
Thank you. Thank you, Laurel and Annabelle, and thank you, Womansong, for joining us today. Buenos días. ¿Cómo están? How are you? I'm Reverend Claudia Jimenez, and I joyfully serve this congregation as Minister of Faith Development. Our call to worship this morning is adapted from the words of Leslie Takahashi Morris. Come, come, whoever you are. Ven, cuál eres, ven. Come with your hurts, your imperfections, your places that feel raw and exposed. Come, come, whoever you are. Ven, cuál eres, ven. Come with your strengths that the world shudders to hold. Come with your wild imaginings of a better world. Come with your hopes that it seems sometimes that no one wants to hear. Wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, we will make a place for you. We will build a home, a community together. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come, come, whoever you are. Ven, cuál eres, ven. And the inspiration for this reading is from Rumi, who had other lines that included that when we break our vows, even when we break them 1,000 times, we are still welcomed because there is the possibility of transformation. So welcome to this morning's worship, and we will be singing on this theme in English and in Spanish. Our song will be Come, Come, Whoever You Are. Imagine that. Ven, cuál eres, ven. So let's just do a quick review of the Spanish. Ven, nómada en búsqueda, si amas la vida. La nuestra es la caravana de amor. Ven, otra vez, ven. Awesomeness. Let us rise in body or spirit and sing together.
vida,
Our story today is Still This Love Goes On by Buffy St. Marie with art by Julie Flett. Sat beside a beaver dam and watched the winter grow. Ice was hard with little tracks appearing in the snow. Fog is in the valley now, all the geese are gone. Cross the moon, I saw them go. And still this love goes on and on. Still this love goes on.
Once I watched the summer flowers turn the fields to sun. Up and down the mountainside I watched the summer run. Now the fields are muffled in white and snow is in the dawn. Morning comes on shivering wings and still this love goes on and on. Still this love goes on.
In every dream I can smell the sweet grass burning, and in my heart I can hear the drum, and hear the singers soaring, and see the jingle dancers. And still this love goes on and on. Still this love goes on.
Fancy dancer, come up north to see some friends of his. Fell in love in a powwow town, and you know how that is. Beaded girls and painted ponies turn your life around, and now you're singing, what is it? Geese Geeten, I love you. Ha ha, on and on, and on and on and...
In every dream I can smell the sweet grass burning, and in my heart I can hear the drum, and hear the singers soaring.
And still this love goes on and on, still this love goes on. The end.
Nope.
Oh wait, no.
No, that is you. We have a few wondering questions. You can think about this in your head. You don't have to share it out loud unless you really want to.
I wonder, what is your favorite part of the story? I wonder, where do you see yourself in the story? I wonder, what people, places, songs, and dances do you love?
Something to think about. So Buffy St. Marie actually wrote this book as a song, and she had this reflection on that process. I wrote this song in a cabin in Alberta in the wintertime. For me, it was like taking photos with my heart of all the things that I see on the reserve. The geese, the ice, the snow, and the people are all there. But I was also thinking about how it is in the other seasons, when everything looks so different. The one thing that stays the same is my love for it all, day after day and year after year. Especially the people and our Cree ways, precious like the fragrance of sweetgrass. In Cree, Gisagitlin means, I love you. I hope the words and music inspire you to think about the people and places you love most in your own life.
Thank you. Wasn't that a fun story? So now is the time in our service when I invite you to take a look around this room. All right, take a look around the room, take a snapshot. What does it look like? Because this is when we prepare and invite our children to go to their religious education classes. So we're going to be singing them out, and children, you will go to the lobby or the foyer to meet your teachers. And if we have visitors with us today, you are welcome to join your child in their class and be with them. So let us rise in body or spirit and sing our children to their classes.
Go
So now take a look around the sanctuary again and see how many of those seats near you are empty. This is a testament to one of the expressions of love in this community, which is to give of our time and to give of ourselves to nurture future Unitarian Universalists. It is central to the work of this congregation. And because it is central, some of those seats that are empty are from people that did not even come into class because they are into worship, because they are downstairs doing childcare. So we are inviting you, if you enjoy being with our littlest UUs to be, to after service in Sandberg Hall, look for our religious educator, Jen Johnson, and consider being one of those caring adults that maybe once a month or every other month helps with childcare. Because it matters. Because that's how we express our love to each other. Now, our opening words.
Thank you, Claudia. So the Unitarian Universalist Association is proposing some significant changes to our guiding principles, and through this process is placing the value of love at the center of all of our values. This is fairly new. I've only had a few days to think about this proposal, but my initial reaction is that, sure, this makes total sense. The question is about putting this one thing at the center of our theology. In other words, is this the main value that I would want to guide the way I show up in the world? And I think for me, the answer is yes. This is a constant and central spiritual practice for me already. How to respond with love in challenging situations, how to choose compassion over judgment, and how to use my actions, privilege, and resources in service to others rather than myself. Love is foundational to my spiritual growth and to what we do here together, and I look forward to us exploring this idea further.
Thank you, Laurel. During this time, the center of our service, we take a moment to reflect and to consider the joys and the sorrows that we bring into our lives. Through silence and the spoken word, we open our hearts to the realities that we bring with us and the realities in the world around us. And for our spoken meditation this morning, Christine Van Wandelen will offer an original poem.
The title of this poem is The Ironic Mathematics of Love. Love can't make halves one. Love makes each of two far more than halves know, multiplies wholeness beyond itself, till each loving loves all things else. Each one in otherness communes, and understanding grows. And now let us share a moment of silence.
And now let us continue this time of meditation with song. You may remain seated as we sing a meditation on breathing.
This is a layered song. When you find a part you like, you can just stay on it.
Because we are a caring congregation, we make time when we gather for a ritual of recognizing the joys and the sorrows that we bring in our hearts. So at this time, I invite you to come forth to light a candle to represent those joys and sorrows. And we have 2 centers for that purpose. if you lit a candle for a joy this morning, know that this congregation rejoices with you. If you lit a sorrow candle, we hold you in love and care. And we light an additional candle for those in our community and those beloveds that are not with us today. May they know that in their joy and in their sorrow, we hold them in love and in care.
Good morning. This poem is called Love as Transcendence. You're going to have the courage to come to the door when I knock, and at least crack it open and peek around the corner and show me where the pain landed in your soul. I will go there and find it. I will. I will pick it up. Don't worry, I can lift it. I'm going to hold it for a while, however long it takes. I'll hold it for you. Hold it all. Whole. Together, we can sense its inferno, smell its putrid acrimony, call out its alluvial layers, then Listen to the howling winds that form them, and swim in the torrential waters that eroded them, all the while witnessing in each other's eyes its vanishing dimensions. Then I will hand it back to you, a force of nature reduced to rubble that no longer has the power to destroy you. It's just a reminder that the problem is never more important than the person.
Thank you, Kelly, and thank you, Christine, for sharing your poetry this morning. So this morning we have heard music, we have heard reading, stories, poetry, and reflections on different expressions of love. Love for one another, love for place and for community that nourishes and nurtures us, and love that is transcendent, that helps us to overcome pain and challenge in our lives. And now I'd like to invite us to listen to a story that draws on our Unitarian, on our Universalist tradition by exploring the theological value of love. And it's about a little boy who lived in a farm in New Hampshire about 200 years ago. And like so many little kids, he enjoyed playing tag, he enjoyed playing hide and seek and doing puzzles. But guess what he enjoyed doing the most? Playing with his friends. Okay, any other things that a child would enjoy doing the most? What do you enjoy doing the most, Elliot? Oh, okay, you can pass. We always allow passing. Well, this little boy, what he enjoyed doing the most was playing in mud. How many of you played in mud when you were little kids? He would jump in the mud, he would make mud cakes, he would do all things mud. But guess what? When he did this, his sisters were responsible for making sure he was cleaned up before meals and when he got back to the house. And do you think his sisters liked doing this? Oh no. They did not appreciate it because, in fact, sometimes he would even get his little other siblings muddy when he was having his fun. And so the sisters didn't like this, and they told him, but, he was a little kid and he had priorities. He loved mud. So they asked Dad for help. And so one day, Dad said to Hosea, his name was Hosea Ballou, and his dad said, Hosea, very sternly, you should not play in the mud. But like kids that we know, he was very curious. So he said, why? Why? And his father, who was a Baptist preacher, said, because just as we do to other people and to follow God's plan, we try to stay clean. Yes, Father, Hosea said, and he did try. But it wasn't easy because remember, he lived on a farm. And when you live on a farm, how many of you grew up on a farm or, yeah. So when you live on a farm, you have chores. So his chore was going out in the mornings, collecting the eggs, and feeding the pigs and the other animals. And what do you think happened when he went to the barn on a muddy day? It was inevitable. He would get mud on himself. And, once he had a little mud, well, what's a little bit more mud? And so guess what? He started playing with the mud. And then guess what? He came home, and what did his sister say? Oh my goodness, Dad! And so, Dad speaks to Hosea again. Hosea, he says, even more sternly, you must not play in the mud. He probably also said, and be considerate with your sisters. Yes, Father, Hosea said. He was sad because, believe it or not, he truly tried most of the time. Are you very angry with me, Father? He asked. I'm disappointed in you, Hosea, and a little angry too. So how do you think Hosea felt? He hung his head and he kicked the dirt, and he asked his father, do you still love me? Hosea, said his father, I will always love you. Even if I get muddy again? Yes. Even if I get really, really muddy? Yes. Even then, his father said with a smile. Then he added, but Hosea, you must try. I'll remember and I'll try, Hosea promised. And he did, most of the time, anyway. And as he grew up, he stopped liking mud so much, but he was still curious. And being a Universalist, when he was a teenager, because if there is one thing about Unitarian Universalists, it's that they question and they're curious about a lot of things. So he wondered why his church could believe that God would only let some people go to heaven, even if other people led good lives. His father, the minister, did not have an answer that he could wrap his mind around. So Hosea had to find his own answer. He read the Bible, he went to other Universalist churches and asked questions there. And at the age of 19, Hosea decided that he believed in universal salvation, which is the idea that everyone everywhere could go to heaven. And his father said, Hosea, how could you believe that? How can you believe that God would let bad people into heaven? And he said, Father, I remember what you told me when I was small. I believe that even if God is disappointed with people or a little angry with them, God will always love them and want them to be happy, no matter what they do, no matter how muddy they are. Now, there is no historical evidence that Hosea Ballou liked mud more than any other of the kids of his time. However, the idea for this sermon, the idea for this story came up from a sermon he delivered in the General Assembly, which is the gathering of Universalists, because they hadn't merged Unitarians and Universalists, in 1851. And this is what he said. This is the quote that inspired this story. Your child has fallen into the mire, and its body and its garments are defiled. This is the language of the time. You cleanse the child and array its clean robes. The question is, do you love your child because you have washed your child? Or do you wash your child because you love your child? And so what this story tells us is that our understanding of love is shaped by the experiences that we have throughout our lives, and it informs our beliefs, and our religious experiences also shape our lives. And so our understanding of love, the story we choose to tell about love, and why it matters in our lives can be considered our theology of love. When I consider love as a theological value that informs religious practice, as Laurel shared earlier in her opening words, I think of that universalist idea of love for all, unconditional love that expresses goodwill towards ourselves and others. And that's the kind of love that is rooted in self-compassion. So we talk about love for ourselves, and it's not that narcissistic love about me, but it is really a love about being gentle and having grace with ourselves. Activist and author Valerie Kaur writes that this is the work that we need to do, and it is work that we do not do alone. Some of it, yes, but loving ourselves happens in community. It is collective care. There is no shame in needing or asking for help. There is no shame in sharing our pain and grieving together, naming violence and naming losses in community, because that is how wounds may heal. And of course, other things like therapy, because a community can't do it all, right? But there is no shame in that. When we are in community, we share stories, we articulate hopes and dreams, and in doing so, we recognize our commonalities. We hold each other accountable, because accountability creates space for reconciliation to happen, and it creates space for transformation. We also find joy together. We discover beauty, kindness, and generosity to counter the indecency of the oppressions and the injustices in our world. In this congregation, spiritual deepening groups such as the Soul Matters groups, the Buddhist Sangha, and the Good Grief group are vehicles for collective care. But it's not only about us. Love for others, as we have heard this morning, is an expression of love, is an expression of our theology. And we have to be cognizant that it's easier to love the people that we like and that are like us. So our challenge as a religious people, as a people of faith with a theology of love, is to widen that circle and to seek wholeness for every person. Here again, Kaur shares valuable insights. She invites us to see no stranger, to wonder about the stories and experiences that lead other people to their convictions. What wounds might they be carrying that need healing? What shapes their beliefs? We may feel dismissive rage and anger towards those who hold views that promote injustice and inequity. That's real. And when that happens, how do we channel the anger and the rage so that we do not become that which we are resisting? How do we, as Bell Hook asks, hold people accountable for wrongdoing and yet remain in touch with their humanity enough to believe in their capacity to be transformed? Now that is a difficult one. And that is something that I believe is our growing edge as human beings. And I think that is why we as Unitarian Universalists need to think about what is our theology of love? What is the story that we tell about love so that we are able to be open and compassionate, knowing that that doesn't mean that there is no accountability, knowing that it doesn't mean that anything goes. And so as I was thinking about Unitarian Universalism and our theology, one of the things that was apparent was that when we look at our theological ancestors, going back to the 1700s, going back to people like Hosea Ballou, there has always been a thread of love that grounds the stories that we tell about who we are as religious people. So, for example, in the 1800s, when we were not yet Unitarian Universalists, we were either Unitarians or Universalists, and we were grounded in Christianity, Unitarian William Ellery Channing said, "Faith is love taking the form of aspiration." And at that time, you heard about Ballou talking about universal salvation, all being saved, which was heretical. In the 1900s, we merged in 1961, and during that time and leading up to that time, we were being more open to other voices like transcendentalism and humanism and their understandings of meaning. And something that really made an impact on me was reading the Second Humanist Manifesto, which states, "We are not advocating the use of scientific intelligence independent or in opposition to emotion, for we believe in the cultivation of feeling and love." And that is not what I understood throughout my young adulthood humanism was about or considered. And coming to the present, I share the words of theologian and minister Rebecca Parker, who says, "We need to love from the start, not as an emergency strategy when everything has gone wrong. We need a spiritual and practical revolution that embodies love for neighbor and the world through sustaining structures of care and responsibility." She tells us that there is work to do. Loving our neighbors implicates loving the whole network of life. Not just the people we like, and not just human-centered. It's the planet. It's the other beings that we share this planet with. So as you can see, there is no one theological anchor in our faith. And yet there is a theology. It's the stories about the meaning of life, the world, the sacred, and even the possibility of God. Because we don't know for sure, do we? That would be hubris to think that we know all the answers. And yet, all of that exploring of what is sacred is grounded in our principles and the inspiration from the variety of expanding sources. And if you don't know what those principles and what those sources are, I just invite you to take a moment and quickly locate your gray hymnal. And I'm not going to ask you to read them right now, but I want you to see where they are. If you go to the very first hymn and you go back one page, right there are the principles and the sources that we say that as Unitarian Universalists we covenant, we agree to affirm and promote. And for those of you who are new, these are pretty awesome statements. And for those of you who have been Unitarians for a while, for many of you, this is an anchor to your identity, to my identity as a Unitarian Universalist. And there's a lot of beauty and truth in here, and yet we are in a time when those principles and those sources are being revisited and they are being revised. And it's one of those situations, if you're familiar with the book, Who Moved My Cheese? You know, the world is topsy-turvy, so much is happening, and for us as Unitarian Universalists, it's unsettling that someone is looking at these principles and sources and revising them. But you know what? This has been happening for quite a while because our faith is called to be a living tradition. Our beliefs and our values and our way of seeing the world evolves as the world changes. We are a unique faith in being a living tradition. We examine our foundational documents in light of the moral, ethical, and spiritual challenges. And since these sources and principles were last revised in 1985, there has been decreased participation in organized religion. There has been increased awareness of white supremacy culture and systemic racism. We're living through a pandemic that has become endemic. There is a resurgence of fascism and threats to our democracy. And if you read the papers, you can keep adding and adding to that list. And so it does behoove us to periodically think about who we are, what we covenant to promote and affirm, and why. And so what I would like to do this morning is just invite you to be aware of that. And I have a slide, and it's going to be the third slide. It's going to be the third slide that shows, you saw the list in your hymnal of the principles and the sources. And I just want you to invite you, the report that has been produced after 3 years of study and reaching out to congregation and doing focus group is presenting us with a set of values with love at the center. How does love ground independence, equity, transformation, pluralism, generosity, justice? If you were to do a side-by-side comparison, I think you will see a lot of the principles represented there. But this is a change. This is a big change. And sadly, a lot of congregations are not paying attention. And I would be remiss if I didn't make it clear that this is only a proposal, that it's going to be voted on this year as a way of saying we're going to move this forward or not, and then next year there's going to be a vote. What are the implications? What can happen? What are those conversations are they going to be like? We don't know. We don't know. Some people are appalled, some people are excited, and some people say, who cares? So we are all over the place around this. And so I encourage you to read that report. There will be a link in the e-news again this week. There will also be a post on our website in the Justice Ministry section. And in March, on the 16th, there will be another brown bag lunch conversation, a bag lunch conversation, and 7 p.m. Zoom call option to continue that conversation, because some people from this congregation will be attending our General Assembly and will be voting to move this forward or not. So we really encourage you to come, and those of you who are delegates, I invite you to come and listen to what other people are saying. What are their concerns? What are the things that they like? Because delegates will be voting on behalf of us, of our congregation. But you know, ultimately, our actions as Unitarian Universalists are more important than words or formats or diagrams that are used to describe our purposes, right? They matter because words and what we express are the aspirations that move us forward. If we can't imagine who we want to be, it's very hard to move in that direction. So whatever the final version of our purposes and sources end up being, it is my hope that they deepen this conversation, this questioning deepens our understanding of our Unitarian Universalist faith. May they challenge us to widen the circle of love, to create welcoming communities of wholeness, healing, and joy. If a theology of love answers the question, how are we called to live our lives? May we boldly, joyfully, and courageously choose the path of love, knowing that, like our friend Hosea, we don't have to be perfect. We can be muddy at times. And knowing that when we break covenant, we can make amends and restore relationships. So friends, I hope that we choose love every day of our lives. And when doing so is difficult, because it will be, because we're human, because we miss the mark, may we turn to wonder. May wonder help us to be more loving. That is my hope for all of us. And guess what? Let's sing. Please rise in body or spirit.
We're so happy that you're here, whether you're a member or a visitor. If you are a visitor and would be willing to let us know who you are and where you're visiting from, we would invite you to do so right now. We have some microphones that can be passed around so everyone can hear. And if there's anyone who's visiting that would like to introduce yourself so we can come greet you after the service, we would love to hear from you. So the microphones are here. Is there anybody visiting? Right here?
Hello. My name is Julia. I went to the Unitarian Universalist Church in Raleigh when I was a teenager. And I'm actually in town visiting my friend from Mountain Camp at the mountain. So he goes to Warren Wilson, and yeah, I've been traveling this year, and I was hanging out with Jason, and everybody kept telling me that I looked like this girl. And Her name is Aria. Yeah. But everybody kept telling me that, like, they thought that I was her. So then I was like, okay, before I go to bed tonight, it's my mission to meet this Aria person. And it was like 2 in the morning, and they texted her to come over. And we found out that she grew up UU too. And I was getting ready to go to bed. I was going to sleep in the back of my car. And then she's like, I have an extra bed in my dorm. So we had a sleepover and then decided we were going to come to church today.
That was sweet. My name is Aria. I go to Warren Wilson. I've been here a few times, but I grew up in the UU church. But also, okay, so last night I sang a song, and it was "Come Come Whoever You Are," because I was like, and it was crazy that I sang that last night, and like I met you, and then now I'm here. We sang it, crazy. I just had to get that out.
Okay, who's going to top that story? You don't have to top it. You can just tell us who you are. Well, that's okay. Anyone? Oh.
Good morning. I'm Betty Hibbler, and I recently moved to Highland Farms and live next to my good neighbors, Nancy and Larry. So I am visiting this morning, and I've been very pleased to be here with you all.
Thank you all so much for being brave and speaking up. We're so glad to have you guys here. Our announcements run at the beginning as slides. If you've missed any, they do go out in the weekly e-news on Thursday. Everything is described there. There's a lot of information. Our community plate recipient this month, we usually collect on the first Sunday of the month the full collection, but then throughout the month, if you missed that Sunday or you want to contribute more, you can do so by putting community plate in the memo line of your check, but you can also do that online. Our recipient this month is the UU Hetland Scholarship, which supports a college-bound Asheville senior high student who meets the scholarship criteria. And we are the only funders of that scholarship. So it is important, if you haven't had the opportunity yet, to contribute to that and keep that going. Today's offering will now be collected and gratefully received. If this is your first time here, we invite you to let the collection plate pass you by. This service is our gift to you, and your presence is your gift to us. Thank you.
And when I rise, let me rise like a bird joyfully. And when I fall, let me fall like a leaf gracefully. And when I rise, let me rise like a bird joyfully. And when I fall, let me fall like a leaf gracefully. And when I stand, let me stand like a tree, strong and tall.
for the gifts of your time, your presence, your resources, and your talents for this community and beyond these walls. We are indeed grateful. Now it is time to close this time that we've had together. I hope you leave with some food for thought for this week, and I share our closing words written by Alana Westbrook. Go in hope, for the arc of the universe is long, and we bend it toward justice. Go in courage, for together we have the strength to confront injustice in our daily lives and the larger world. And go in love, because a holy and generous love is both the reason and the means by which we are transformed. And now let us rise in body or spirit as we sing our closing song, followed by a time of postlude and time in Sandberg Hall. And if you haven't done so, when you are in Sandberg Hall, we have Appreciation Ave. If there's a volunteer you would like to appreciate, write their name here and put it up on Appreciation Ave. You'll see it. It's that lovely tree that our religious educator put up there. So now let us sing Long Time Son.